This is Jay Ferrer, also known as Tito J, and I'm here to give you some tips and discuss issues about the new safety officer for Department Order 252-25. As we all know, uh, there was a former implementing rules and regulation, which is DO 198-18, and this was already superseded by the new DO 252-25. And Jay Ferrer, who is also a safety consultant, a desk the trainer and assessor for cranes, forklift, rigging, and lifting, will discuss to you this new Department Order 252-25. Well, let's start first. DO 252-25 is the revised RRR of RA 11058. It supersedes and replaces DO 198-18 effective May 16, 2025. So what's the meaning or significance of DO 25-25? It's for the occupational safety and health compliance. DOLE, through the Occupational Safety and Health Center, acknowledged that the old 198-18 has gray areas and must evolve to address the changing industry practices, contracting parties, models, job sites, workplaces, and the risks that we as safety advocates must revisit our safety programs, policies, compliance to the new IIR. So we would try now to give you certain views of the DO 252-25 and 198-18. Let's start first with the coverage and the scope. The coverage of DO 198-18 before it covers all establishment, projects, and job sites in all economic activities. When I say all, everything. But there are some gray areas. So what do you mean by gray areas? It's not specifically identified. So the DO 252-25 expanded the coverage wherein which special economic zones, government-owned and controlled corporations, contractors, meaning the contractors doing the job and their subcontractors for remote and flexible work. The employer and manager and the supervisor roles. DO 198-18 says the employer is responsible for providing a safe and healthful workplace, and that the managers and supervisors have general duties. While DO 252-25 clarifies this direct rules, and there is now your word accountability of the so-called managers, supervisors, safety officers for the occupational safety and health. And this is mainly because there are some lapses that has been done and should now be addressed. What are the safety officer requirements? Based on before 198-18, there is a table. It depends on the number of workers, their risk level from SO1 to SO4. In that table, you can see that when the job is critical, let's say it's a lifting work, confined space, electrical isolation, it now becomes higher. It now becomes elevated to a SO3 or probably an SO4. So that's the main thing for 198-18. However, for 252-25, it is the same level, SO1 to SO4. However, it requires competency-based certification wherein we, as safety officers, managers, and supervisors, are required to take competency-based certification, refresher training courses from DOLE and occupational safety centers to check our validity or our currency of these safety officers. When I say, are they equipped? And after 2 to 3 years, this is again revisited and upgraded because, we're living in a dynamic world. A dynamic world when everything changes. So, does it need to have, let's say, there will be a need to construct a windmill, and there are about this number of workers. Do we as safety officers need to undergo the new training courses? Do we, the managers and supervisors, have to attend? These are now being addressed in DO 252-25. Training and competency. Now, and I said training and competency. A lot of people in 198-18, HR people, supervisors, employers, in order to cut costs, they would say, my worker has been there for 10 years and they're competent, so they would just go to the competency assessment thing and no specific training for these hazardous jobs. There are people that keep driving and driving, but they don't know the meaning of defensive driving. They are lifting and rigging. They don't know what's going to happen if they lifted it wrongly and an accident occurs. So, management, as safety officers, are enjoined to justify that we need to undergo such specific training for rigging. How do we lift this thing? Do we lift it with a choker? Remember that the choker, there are certain points in the choker that you do not cover 360 degrees of the pipe if you're lifting a pipeline. So what do? Do you basket it? So these are the courses that we should do in refreshing. So in DO 252-25, competitive-based and aligned with TESDA and DOLE standards. So there is what we call standards. So there are a lot of people that would say, oh, it's okay, but these are not the standard. And it requires a specific training wherein which these jobs have to have a standard. It is based on where? What is the safety factor? What is the breaking point? What is the tested point? What is the allowable thing? When you say this is the capacity of the crane that you are using in relation to the crane chart, what is now your safety factor? Because when an accident happens, you are there now to defend your methodology. So I think everything is clear there. Inspection and maintenance. The former DO 198-18 says annual inspection of the workplace and equipment as required by DOLE and also as safety officers. But now, DO 252-25, it documents everything. There should be a documentation of what we're doing, inspection, schedules, and these are now logged in a certain book, and these certifications are compiled. Certifications of what? Our third-party equipment contractor, wherein which they would certify that this forklift, this crane, this bulldozer, any heavy equipment, or our elevators are already okay, ready to be used. Our scaffoldings are ready to be used. There are now tags placed on that equipment that it's ready to be used or not. The supply chain and subcons. In the old 198-18, the employer must be responsible for the workers' and the contractor. What does it mean? If you now have a general contractor, that general contractor is responsible for everybody. There might be only one safety officer. That is the gray area there. Now, when you have the DO 252-25, it expands from the general contractor to the subcontractor to the supply chain, because there must be a supply chain delivering this heavy lift, out of gauge cargoes, and they are all jointly liable for occupational safety and health violations. Now, the accident report and investigation. The old DO 198-18 says every accident or incident near misses must be reported in 24 hours. Why in 24 hours? Because we should learn, it should be recorded, reported, and documented so as we could learn from these unsafe acts and conditions. That must be addressed in order that it would not be repeated. As I've said, if there is a person who fell to the ground because of a tripping hazard, this should be documented. Either if it's a near miss, that there should be no more tripping hazard there. Cleanliness should be supervised by us, supervisors. Cascaded to who? To the workers. Before you leave the job site is clear. Nothing is there to be an obstruction. Nothing is there that there will be somebody who would fall down and there is due to this tripping hazard. Now, the new DO 252-25 is the same. But what is added, there is an emphasis on the root cause analysis. Why did it happen? No safety officer. He was on leave. Why is he on leave? Some emergency. Now, there should be somebody who should take his place. And if somebody takes his place, why did it happen? Why an accident again? Well, these janitors forgot it. And so there should be a corrective and preventive action and documentation so this accident would never have happened. Well, the enforcement and penalties. The old implementing rules and regulation of DO 198-18 says there is a table, no safety officer, no safety policy, no safety program. There is a thing, but you could never go up to 100,000 per day. While in the new implementing rules and regulation, which is DO 252-25, it's the same. But it is applied per violation, per piece of equipment, number of untrained equipment operators. You have 2 untrained operators, so you now double it. It is now cumulative. Cumulative violation would now require a cumulative penalty. While documentation and occupational safety net programs, the old IIR says the employer must approve the occupational safety net program and others like this policy. The employer, once there is a new company, they hire a safety consultant, does the policy, does the program, does everything. Or before going to a job site, everything is signed. The employer understands the risks, understands the hazards, understands everything and what is needed of him in order to have a workplace that is safe and helpful for everybody. Now, the new DO 252-25 says, besides this general program, there must be specifics for hazardous work like confined spaces, lifting and rigging, material handling, tag out and log outs. So things when it becomes more hazardous, there should be a separate program now addressing these things. Now, they should undergo review and it should be updated Updated when? Maybe 2 to 3 years, depending on the dynamics on the present hazardous environment conditions, the hazardous thing that we have found out that, let's say, there are now accumulation of chemicals up there in the ceiling and they have to be taken off and cleaned because in a single spark, the whole building might explode. Things like that. Now, there is what you call uh, the workers' participation and consultation. The old IIR 198-18 is just very general. Every worker must participate. But 252-25, it now became democratic that in all occupational safety net decisions, the workers and their views are entered in the risk assessment. Because before in the hierarchy, it is only us safety officers who decides and now make our hierarchy. And let's say we put there 3, it's relatively safe, there is no risk. But now it is the workers' time that their voices are heard, their opinions are heard, and it should be addressed. It is no longer a authoritarian safety officer thing. It is now a collegiate body done in the toolboxes wherein which the safety officer asks the welder, how I covered everything. And he would say, not yet, sir. You forgot to mention about the possibility of, what's the possibility? Let's say an oxygen. These are high pressure gases. Once it leaks, it hits a certain people, there will be cold burn. So that's what it is. So this is now consultation. So I think that's the end part of our program. And I would like to thank you. Please subscribe, the subscribe button. And we would be doing more about this. And as your Tito J or your materials engineer J Ferrer would try to see if there would be more. And I would try to see if I could, the response is good. We would go on to the kind of hitches part of material handling. So we're now ending this. We would like to say smile and be safe.